Good afternoon, watch YouTube. This is Calvin Tran here with Calvin on Time. Coming at you with a new video, a new sort of video that I'm used to making. It's called The Differences Between the Watch Industry and the Watch Community. This video is inspired by one that I watched just yesterday by Mike at This Watch, That Watch. He made a great video titled How Social Media is Affecting the Watch Industry. Highly recommended if you haven't watched it yet. It inspired a lot of thoughts that I've had brewing in my head for quite some time since COVID, really, the pandemic when we were all alone in our rooms. And I think that video really helped bring to light some of the staleness in the YouTube watch community, watch industry that I've felt, in the past few years. I want to take his video in a sort of somewhat new direction. His was a great focus on, how social media affects watch marketing and brand appeal. I want to talk about, the blurred line between identity of who we are as end users and end consumers of these novelties, and the increasingly blurred line between our identities, the community, and the industry. There's one level of abstraction between each of these layers. So yeah, hopefully we can get down into it, and hopefully it just gives us, the consumers, a bit more power back in terms of our purchasing power and our decision-making authority in terms of the direction of these brands and these watches. So we're gonna go into all sorts of topics today, starting with the gray market, the auctions of watches in the vintage watch market. We're going to talk about the influencers, the Teddy Baldessars, the Brit Pierces, the Mike Nouveaus, the Bryn Wallners of the world. I want to ask, are they part of the watch community? Yeah. Is Brad Pitt part of the watch community? Is Timothy Chalamet part of the watch community? Maybe. Am I part of the watch community? I will say yes. Am I part of the watch industry, though? I'll say the spoiler alert, I am squarely in the camp of the watch community. I have nothing to sell besides maybe my ideas, but even then I'm giving them away for free. I'm just part of the community. I show up to my local watch meetups. I meet the faces of the end users, the end enjoyers of these spectacles. Sure, at the watch meetups there may be the one local entrepreneur who's making his own straps or making his own brand of watches and he's trying to sell them. Sure, that's fine. Or it might be the sponsored, brand, Panerai, IWC, whoever it is, who's taking part of the meetups as well. But for the most part, that's what I identify with. That's my identity. I identify with the watch community. I don't have anything I can try to sell you guys. So sorry or not sorry, I hope that works out for us. Anyways, along with that, I want to talk about, some of the celebrity worship going on, and how that kind of distorts the lens in which we analyze our purchases and make our purchases, and just sort of sentiment around the watch community as well. I really hope that the watch community doesn't really self-cannibalize itself, and I hope that we can sort of, take a stand as end consumers and, kind of demand some of our autonomy back in this marketplace, which is a fascinating one. So yeah, let's dig into it. All right, I've gotten a little bit of tea here since we're gonna talk about some tea. But the first topic really is just to chat about this flowering gray market. Flustering is another word that was coming to mind. The gray market and the auction appeal. Has anyone seen those reels on Instagram about, some dude that just gets a watch on the Diamond District in the 47th Street of New York City, Manhattan, and they say, all right, my goal is to try to flip this for $2K by the end of the day. And they do it. They're really interesting videos, right? It's fun, it's entertaining to watch, entertaining to consume. But yeah, it's just an interesting like glimpse into the industry. Sure, you could say it's part of the community because, it's on Instagram and we see it. But at the end of the day, they're not necessarily the ones purchasing them at the end of the day. They're buying them from their friends, getting a little bit of arbitrage, and it's a hard job. And at the end of the day, they're just trying to find an end consumer to meet the demand. it's not necessarily their own demand that's driving the price increase in the volume in the market. We saw this especially in 2021 during the COVID pandemic. A lot of that price movement, that sentiment around, crazy upswings in prices was driven by the gray market. It was not necessarily driven by end consumers actually purchasing these things. Maybe that noise, that marketing, it made its mark on the market in terms of getting people into the hobby, but it didn't really get everyone didn't get the watch they want during that time period. It was mostly, the same hands swapping stainless steel around or swapping yellow gold around. So it's just an interesting little thing to be aware of, which is that a lot of that volume, a lot of that market activity was not made by true consumers or part members of the community. Although some of us did buy some during that time as well. Another interesting thing is the auctions. Mike Nouveau attends some of these. I've seen some of them from I think it's Britt Wallner at Dime Piece. And there's a bunch of these new sorts of influencers that show you a bit more of the haute horloger, if you will, a glimpse into that world. Again, a very like business development type of marketing. The reels you'll see about they're raising their placards, 10K for the Cartier Tortue or whatever, and they're really fun to watch. I love to see that stuff. Would I ever participate in one? Maybe. But at the same time, again, it's just another video. It's just another marketing about speculation. People like to see that. People love to see their hobbies actualize into something that could appreciate in value. Like, who wouldn't? I have something I want to show you guys, which is another thing that I collect, along with watches. You guys know I collect rocks. I find them in the streams, in the places I visit. I tumble some of them as well in my rock tumbler. And, sometimes people sell these on, their Etsy stores and whatnot. I don't. I've looked at buying some of them, but everyone wants to see their hobby realize some sort of financial accrual and some financial appreciation and value. So with watches, it's no different. The only thing with watches, though, is that it's gotten a bit of that snobby appeal, which Mike from This Watch to That Watch speaks to very well, where, there's that air of false exclusivity that really drives people to make more irrational decisions than most people would. And I think the auction videos are just another sort of, how do you even say it? They're another sort of, like a gaslighter. They'll add fuel to the fire in terms of, adding to the speculation to show that there's a real industry here. It's very institutionalized. Even though in the world of auctions, watches are fetching, teardrops worth of, dollars compared to art pieces and other jewelry. So yeah, we're still a bit nascent in that direction. We've just all really caught on to it because it feels like we've finally arrived. But no, we haven't really. The watch industry maybe has finally arrived, but the watch community still very much doesn't really deal with auctions at all. The only way we deal with it is just watching them through our reels, and which distorts our lens on what the watch market really is. Next thing I want to talk about are celebrities. I'm going to start with the ones that we know: Britt Pierce, Bryn Wallner, Teddy Baldessar, Theo and Harris, those guys. I know it's not their real names, but that guy from Theo and Harris, and then the Mike Nouveaux of the world. There's a very blurred line here where you can say they are part of the watch community. Especially most of them started out as small channels. I remember seeing Britt Pierce when she was at like 200 subscribers. Watch Gringa back in the day. But yeah, it's been interesting seeing the development and growth of them, and we're very proud to have them as part of our community because they're kind of like the hometown heroes that you've seen graduate from the trenches, and now they have their own established physical store locations. They got their online fronts, they got their sponsorship deals. It's very heartwarming to see because for the people that are just really into it as a hobby, it gives people that hope and ambition that maybe they could too turn it into a career and join the ranks of the watch industry, graduating from the community to the industry. So we're really proud of folks like that. And they give decent advice too in terms of what they're selling. we have to realize that some of them are sponsored videos, some of them are sponsored ads. Um, they'll give shout outs to watches that they fully endorsed but they don't have in their collection, which is like red flag number one. But yeah, there's more influencers beyond that as well. So while the problem with these guys is that sometimes they're not inauthentically, but they're given suggestions for things that they don't even own themselves. Um, why would you say it's so beautiful and then say the next thing is we have this on a Theo and Harris watch shop? Like you should say this is mine. That's a much better marketing drive and narrative story than saying it's beautiful so it's on our shop. It's just not beautiful enough for my collection. Something really wrong about that. But there's a wider watch community here as well, which are the Serena Williamses of the world, the Pharrells of the world, the Brad Pitts, and the Timothy Chalamets of the world as well. Britt Wallner of Dime Piece has done an excellent job on kind of covering the celebrity worship, the celebrity gossip, the celebrity culture. It's prevalent in all communities, all cultures and societies, but especially in the United States, which is that when we see people that we deem as having high social capital, a Brad Pitt, if he's wearing a 222, that means something, right? Right? I mean, sure, maybe it'll make you want the 222 more. Maybe Serena Williams wearing a Richard Mille will make you want a Richard Mille more, but it's really just the similar sort of thing at the end of the day, which is just a worship of celebrities. What do they really know about this stuff? Really, I'm reminded of a Kanye quote about Lady Gaga. He says something about Gaga. She knows all the songs. What the hell does she know about Polaroid cameras?
Gaga, she's the creative director of Polaroid. I like some of the Gaga songs. What the does she know about cameras?
It's just an endorsement deal at the end of the day for some of these guys, right? I mean, Timothy Chalamet, he's a very charismatic young man. He's aspirational to many young men, I guess. He talks about football, sports betting. He talks about watches sometimes too, right? He's a brand endorser for Cartier. What does he really know about the heritage and the lineage of Cartier? Probably not as much as some of us, I would say. So again, something just to be worrisome about, or wary about, which is just that some of these guys are meant to inflate the appeal of the watch industry, the watch market, larger than life, larger than it really is, and they have to hire the help of Hollywood in order to do so. So just another thing to keep out in mind. Yeah, and I guess I'll get to the fruit and the juice of this video, which is just that blur between personal identity, collectivized watch community, and then the watch industry. With these levels, my main worry is that we're not buying watches that are true to ourselves anymore. The watch should really speak to who you are, your interests, and you should use them. You should take them out on adventures. They should not be sitting around in closets or watch winders to store just the time, or just to try to appreciate in monetary value in inflationary dollars. They should really be something that you form your own narratives and form your own identity around. It's one thing to say, I got a Christopher Ward because they're cheap, they're high quality, high spec, good value for the money. It's another thing to say I got a Christopher Ward because my grandpappy loved them, and he brought them through the war with him, and he sailed the 7 seas with them. I don't know if anyone's done that in a Christopher Ward. Maybe someone should, and that'd be the best advertising they have. But no, I mean, in that sense, most of us are buying these watches to feel part of something because we don't have that part of us. Going back to COVID times, all of us were lonely. We're strapped with a bit more extra cash than we might have really needed, but in hindsight, it's 2020. And the watch industry really preys on our insecurities. They gave us a sense of community through these watch influencers, through these marketing appeals, which is great in some senses, but I worry that we lose the characters, the identities underneath the surface of the community. It's one thing to just say the community writ large hates Richard Mille. I don't hate Richard Mille, but it's very ossified in the way that there's stereotypes in the community. You're considered a bit basic if you buy a Tudor, you know, things like that. But it really takes away from the individuality of the faces in the community. So I encourage people to really think true to themselves, what satisfies them in terms of their watch purchases and their taste and aesthetic appeals. Try not to see too many adverts. Just look at just the watches and make your decisions off of that. You don't even have to really look too much into the specs, which is something that Mike from This Watch That Watch speaks to. Yeah, and the thing with the next level then, from the individual to the community, from the community to the industry, that's where that's where we lose trust in our community and in our market, in our hobby, when there's that blurred line, because then we can't really tell when or not something is really sponsored. Does someone really endorse this watch then if they're part of our community but doesn't own the watch for themselves? I can be an appreciator of watches and not own them. It's true, but to then say it's now available on our store, buy it now, it leaves a bit of a different taste in the mouth. And for some of us, I just get naturally, just a bit more wary when I see things like that. They're just not as authentic as you would want something like, hopefully, this dialogue between you and I. So yeah, I think that's where this video is heading towards its natural end. Just to really give more power to us as the watch, individual, to the watch enthusiast, to the watch consumer that actually ends up buying these things from the gray market, from maybe an auction or from the official retail store branch. Which is that just take more stock into what we're buying. Don't buy watches just to fit into a community. Buy them to stand out for yourself. But they should be, identifiers of your personal brand, not the brand of any community, or not the brand of a larger, of Cartier or something like that. It should speak to your brand, which is the whole point of this video, really. There is a difference between watch industry and watch community, and I just hope that this video starts to peel away at some of those layers and really just helps get us back into thinking intrinsically about who we are, what we want out of this life, out of this watch, and out of our time here that's very limited. Yeah, I think I'll stop it there. This has been a Calvin on Time video. I'm Calvin Tran, and yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments if any of this resonates with you. And again, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be sure to come up with more stuff similar like this if that's what you all desire. Thank you. Have a good one.